have to pick up my credential. And so I go and I get the credential, and the lady goes, "Who are you?" And I go, "No, I'm Ryan Foley." She goes, "Oh yeah, you have a podcast. Congratulations."
You guys do a podcast? What is it?
Welcome everybody to the R&R Cat Cast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. Welcome back, Bobcat fans. Exciting times. Got your Ryans here for a little bit of a fall preview, Big Sky Media Days kickoff. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm great, Ryan. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm good. Feels good to be back in the saddle, so to say.
Yeah, my saddle is my very cluttered garage, and I had to clear a little bit of a space off just to get back in here since we're kind of rearranging things in here. So I had to clear my saddle off.
Right on. Well, at least you're out there. I mean, you got some privacy. You're not going to be disrupted.
It's true. It's very hot in here today, though. Very hot. But it's all right. It's all good.
Yeah, for sure. On this episode, we're just going to talk about the Big Sky Media Days. We're going to look at some preseason polls. We're going to talk about the new recruits and a little bit about the number 41 and what kind of significance that has for Montana State.
Yeah, but kind of breaking news on that. That came out today, right?
Yeah, we might be the first people who actually get to talk about that. Mm-hmm. So
the first people putting this down on a track.
But first, our order of business is always, what are we drinking tonight?
I have stuck with my Michelob Ultra because it's still all I have in my refrigerator.
There you go.
And so I actually dug around. I found my old leather football looking Bobcat koozie. I was like, all right, and I'm going to bust it out. I'm going to use a koozie for once. And then I remembered the Ultra cans are those stupid, tall, skinny cans, so it doesn't fit in there. So I was going to use a koozie for you, Ryan, but it didn't work out. It's just not meant to be.
I wouldn't go that far yet. You can still go with the koozie route, man. It's worth it. So we'll get you a real beer here in a little while. All right.
Please do. Please
All
help
right.
me.
So I have this is called Something Easy from Lagunitas. It's a pale ale. Picked it up about 2 weeks ago at, of all places, Target. And they had, I think, like a 18-pack of it. We were going camping or something, and my wife's like, you need to go get some beer. And I was like, okay, I'll go get some beer. So randomly I was over there. I picked it up. And it's pretty good. Just kind of plowing through the 18-pack. It's just your standard low alcohol, pale ale. So
yeah. I mean, they're not a bad brewery. I've drank a fair amount of their stuff before. It's not bad.
Yeah. Hey, so I did have a question about beer for you. Like, do you have like a go-to summer beer? Like, what is your summer beer?
Just anything light, really. Traditionally, my just drinking summer beer has been Rolling Rock, but a lot of times I'll drink a Blue Moon, classic one too, or a Red Stripe if I'm feeling real fancy.
Do you ever put orange juice in your Blue Moon?
No, sure don't. We don't usually have juice in the house.
Okay.
Do you know what's your summer beer?
Probably like a Miller Lite. Honestly, that's what's in my garage fridge right now. But what's a really underrated beer of the summer is Pacifico. Have you ever had a Pacifico?
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Man, it's like the one that I only get when I'm going to like a Mexican restaurant, the ones where they bring you out the really hot plates and they tell you not to touch them because you'll like burn your hands off.
And then you touch them.
Yeah, and then you burn your fingertips off. But
I'll be the judge of what's hot, and then you burn yourself.
Yeah. But the person who's been serving you, it never wears any gloves and he has no fingerprints because he's been doing it for about 10 years now.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man, I used to be a dishwasher in a restaurant. Those dishes come out of there piping hot, and when you first start, they just burn your hands. But yeah, you get used to it. I imagine the same way with those.
Well, that's the only time I get Pacifico, and I always think to myself, I'm like, man, I love it. Why don't I buy some of this? I never buy it, but when I go to the Mexican restaurant, I always get one.
Well, pick some up then.
I know I should.
It's hot. Get some.
There you go. All right. Okay, so over the last couple of weeks, we've had some interesting news. We've had a couple new recruits that come in. You want to tell us about those fellows that are committing to Montana State?
Well, the one that I think people seem to be most excited about is the Rush Reimer kid from Camas, Washington, 6'5", 295. That's going to be an offensive line commit. Nice size, good, solid program, big football area in here, kind of our neck of the woods. I'm excited about that signing. How about you?
Well, it's interesting to me. I got two thoughts on it. One, I see that we beat out Eastern Washington, Idaho, and Northern Colorado for him. So that makes me excited that we're plucking one out of Eastern's basket, so to say. But two, my second thought was 6'5", 295 is a stretch from where we used to recruit our offensive linemen. I mean, when you and I were back in school in the early 2000s, the guys we recruited to play offensive line often came in at 6'3", 230, 6'2", 6'2", 210 sometimes. And you're looking at Jason McIndoe and you're going, what are you going to do with that guy? And then you'd see those guys in like Miller Dining Hall, and they'd be eating like 12 hard-boiled eggs and like 3 plates of chicken. And you're like, okay,
he's working on it.
Yeah, and eventually they would come out and they would do just fine, but it would take them a while to get there. And so for an offensive lineman to come in already at 295, I don't know if that's a good thing, to be honest with you. I have questions about that. Like, is that healthy weight? Think about like flexibility and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. Wait till Montana State gets their hands on him and, trains his diet, so to say. But that's just a big departure from where we used to recruit our offensive linemen.
Yep. No, it's a trend that we've definitely picked up in the last few years, and I don't know if that's a sign of we're a program who can get that kind of recruit, or if it's I don't really know why, but we've definitely gotten guys that are much more physically mature and kind of ready to play out of high school, at least in terms of the stats, their height and their weight.
Yeah, we had 2 other guys, right?
We have Connor Reitler from Billings Skyview, 6'4", 275. I see him listed at offensive line and defensive line. So honestly, don't know much about him or where he projects, but always good to get Skyview kids on the roster, that's for sure.
No, absolutely. I think he'll probably project as an offensive lineman. I think one of the posters on Bobcat Nation said he plays 4 out of 5 positions on the offensive line. So with that kind of size and the depth that we have on our defensive line, I wouldn't be surprised if he is an offensive lineman coming in.
Yep, that sounds good to me. Yeah, I mean, we can always use more bodies there. We just kind of seem to have a lot of attrition there pretty much forever. So can never have too many bodies there. And why don't you talk about the Butte kid we just signed?
Okay, Tommy Mellott. Hopefully I'm saying that last name correct. Mellott.
Why do you think I asked you to introduce him?
Very good. 6'1", 190, 185, depending on what website you look at, whatever. Right. QB/athlete from Butte. And, my only thought on this kid is if you're a Montana school, whether it's Montana State, University of Montana, Montana Tech, Carroll, ever, these are the guys that you want on your team. This is the backbone. This should be the backbone of your team because these are a Montana kid. I mean, everybody says the Butte tough. They have that reputation. This is what you want to build these kind of kids are what you want to build your program around. Now, whether or not he's listed at a 2-star athlete, which is pretty good. If he was a 1-star, if he was a half-star, you still sign him because he's got the size, he's got the pedigree. That's what you you just bring him in because you're a Montana school. So I'm excited that we got him.
It's interesting he has any star rating at all. It's not very common for Montana kids. So he must have gone to some sort of a camp somewhere, I imagine, where some scouts took a look at him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's always good to have Montana kids on the roster, especially Butte kids. Seems like haven't really had one for a few years that I can recall. or do we have one now? Maybe we have someone now, but it's good to have some Butte guys on the roster, and I'm excited. Just the prospect of he looks very athletic and looks like he's gonna be able to help us wherever he ends up playing.
Absolutely. Is Chase Benson a Butte kid?
No, he's a Helena.
No, okay.
High question mark?
Okay.
Helena High. Yeah.
I think we do have one Butte kid on ours.
I'm pretty sure we do. It's going to drive me crazy, but we'll go ahead and move on and talk about the thing that came out today. I think number 41, the new tradition, kind of Jeff Choate putting a little stamp on that. What do you think? First, you kind of want to explain what it is, what everyone read on msubobcats.com. What do you think it is?
Yeah, so far all we know is, it goes back to Montana being the 41st state for the United States, and kind of even back to how the Cats were, doing their helmets for the Cat Grizz. There was a couple things they're putting on the helmets these days. One being, the 406 stamp, and then the 3777 stamp. And now, apparently, I did not know this, they had a 41 sticker on the back of their helmet. Did you know that?
I don't think I did. I was actually reading that. I was like, I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, me either. So this is just paying homage to Montana kid that is essentially just, embodies this, what a Bobcat is what it sounds like to me, essentially. Braden Conkle is going to be the first one to don this jersey with that notion. In past, Montana players have wore 41, most notably Bobby Daly recently, Grant Collins. So it would carry on this tradition, and it sounded like Choate kind of wanted to start this to put his stamp on this. I don't know. That seemed a little weird to me when I read that. What did you think?
Yeah, I don't know about the whole wanting to put his stamp on tradition, but it just sounds like Jeff Choate believes in traditions and wanted to bring something of his own, something for his first group of guys to kind of create and pass on and start something. And that's what he came up with. And, I'm all for it. I love the idea of the 41st state. We've had some good players from Montana in the last 7 or 8 years, starting with Brad Daly off the top of my head. And then obviously Grant Collins, one of the toughest Montana kids you'll ever come across. So, I like the idea. I think it's great. I'm interested to see what the parameters are for like who gets it. I know it has to be a Montana kid, but like who selects the player moving forward. And it sounded like the article was kind of still up in the air on that. So I'm kind of curious to see just how it's selected, but I like the idea. I think it's a great tradition to start, and it's already got some momentum behind it, some history behind it without even really having a name yet.
Absolutely. I love traditions, and, it's for the players, for the team. I don't think there's anything wrong with this at all.
Nope, me neither. I like it. Good choice.
Cool.
And a great choice, I think, for the first person to don it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you and I have talked about how much we just love Braden Conkle and think he's just one of the best safeties we've seen probably since Jordan Craney era, I would have to say, for quite a while.
I was never a big fan of Jordan Craney. No offense to him. I thought he was a poor man's Ryan Force.
Yeah, we always talk about Ryan Force. He's definitely like, but that's probably as a Colter like to say proximity bias. We watched him play. He was there when we were in school. And certainly have fond memories of him and that team.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's keep this train moving.
So you went to the Big Sky Media Days, the Big Sky Football Kickoff, I guess is what it really is called, in Spokane.
Well,
somehow they let us in.
A little backstory. So before school got out over here, I'm a teacher. I was visiting Great Falls on my parents, and I was sitting in there having a beer with my buddy Ryan Sanders, who is a photographer for the Tribune, and we're talking about this. Man, you should apply for a media credential. I was like, no. He goes, yeah, why not? He's like, go in there and get some story, and get some information for your podcast and see what happens. So, I sat on that for a little bit, and then I talked to you. You're like, oh yeah, we should totally do that. So what did we do? We sent it off, and right away they approved us for a media credential. And then it was like, okay, here we go now. So like before anything, I just want to, if anybody from the Big Sky is listening to our podcast, I just want to say thank you, because not only did you afford, us an opportunity to have a cool experience and get some information, but podcasting for other teams too. Like I met the Montana Mint guy, Rory Murphy, and got a good connection with him. He's a Great Falls guy too. Just a couple years behind me, went to Great Falls High. I went to CMR, but he was a 2003 grad. I met Chris Hammond, who does the Tubson Club, the Idaho podcast. So I got to connect with a couple of different podcasters over there. But the situation of going there was really, really unique. It was at first really overwhelming for me. I stepped into the Davenport. Did you know there's 3 Davenports in Spokane?
No, I've only been to the one.
Well, I went to the wrong one at the very beginning. I'm sitting there having a moose stroll, and this was a Sunday night. I was meeting up with some of those podcasters I've never met before. And I'm like, man, what's taking so long? And then I was like, I'm at the wrong Davenport. So to finish up my moose stroll, go over to the next Davenport. And I want to paint kind of like a picture for you, Thorny. Have you ever been to a country club before?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
well the Montana Country Club.
Well, I grew up working at the Meadowlark Country Club in Great Falls, and it's a nice. In high school I was a bag boy, so I cleaned all the golf clubs, and then when I went into college, I would come back and I was a lifeguard. But in certain times in the country club, there's just tables of people that are like kind of like they have money, or they feel important. The big guys of the club. So anyways, I go over to the Davenport. I'm sitting down at the bar, and I meet Rory, and then I meet Chris, and we're sitting there, and then here comes Jeff Choate, and he's sitting with the Northern Arizona and I think some Portland State guys, but they just have a table, and they just reminds me of country club atmosphere almost, because you look over there and you're like, man, those are the guys. Those are the guys running the show. You know what? It was first stood out to me about Jeff Choate. He's taller. I thought he would be. I don't know. I just pictured Jeff Choate as the short man for some reason.
Can't say maybe I ever have.
maybe because it's like his ego that he's carrying around that I just thought he would be short. But he's a big guy. So that was the first night. So I'm just sit there and I gleaned some information off these guys, the Montana Mint guys, and Chris, who does the Idaho one. And then the next morning is the day of the interviews. Okay. So I come back and I have to pick up my credential. And so I go and I get the credential, and the lady goes, "Who are you?" And I go, I'm Ryan Foley. She goes, "Oh yeah, you have a podcast. Congratulations." And I was like, "Well, thanks."
Congratulations.
I know she congratulated me. She goes, "Well, here's your badge." And then they had like this table full of swag. And so I picked up a coffee mug. And then she's like, "Well, it's down the hall and they're to your left." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm walking down and I enter this door, and then it hits me. I look around, and then there's every coach from the Big Sky Conference. And it's just like, it's a little bit surreal. I'm looking at Jeff Choate. I see him immediately. I see Bobby Jahque. I see Jay Hill. I mean, all these coaches. Dan Hawkins is over in the corner. And then the second people I notice is all the journalists we listen to. There's, all the podcasters we listen to and the writers. And so they're sitting there answering or talking to them, doing their interviews, and it's kind of like this, like if you want to go talk to someone, you have to just wait in line, or like go fill a seat, so to say. In the middle, they have all this coffee and drinks, and then they have all these media guys. I feel so out of place. I don't feel like I should be in there. I didn't have any questions for Jeff Choate at the time. I was not prepared to talk to him, just a player. So I scurry out. I go sit out on this bench, and I collect my thoughts, and I was like, okay, go back in there, And then when I went back in there, there's a guy who comes over to me and says, "Hey, can I help you out?" And I was like, "Hey, no, I'm Ryan. He was like, "No, you're good, man." He's like, "Anything I could do for you?" And I was like, I think I'm just gonna go grab a cup of coffee. So I sat there and I grabbed a cup of coffee and I kind of observed just what was happening. And and the more I stayed in there, the more comfortable I got. And if it's here in Spokane next year, for sure, I'd like to craft some questions for our coach. But yeah, that was my first experience in the media room, so to say.
So you ended up cutting your teeth on a couple of players interview this time around, and next time you think you're ready for Choate, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it would be good for our podcast for sure to get some information out there. But then, yeah, the players came in, and at that point, I felt a lot more comfortable, and I was able to sit down with Jahque and Kevin Kassis, and I prepared some questions for them, and had a good conversation. They're just two good dudes that represent our school. I was able to talk a little bit with some Weber State players. I just kind of wanted to get their perspective on like how they're so tough later in the season. And I left feeling pretty positive, got some good audio, and some stuff we'll share with you guys.
So you were there with all the media types, the big media people from all around the Big Sky, the various papers. What was could you gauge their mood towards the little podcast people like ourselves?
They didn't look at me. I remember, I'm not going to say his name, but I remember one of the people we reference here on the show, and I don't know if he just didn't notice me or doesn't even know who I am. Probably doesn't even know who I am. Didn't even acknowledge me when we were standing right next to each other, and I was about to say hi, but I was just like, it is what it is. So I was wondering what their perception would be, and like, to be honest with you, I imagine they're accepting of us, and just we're a little bit different. As a fan-based podcast, we can really give our opinions kind of unbiased because we are being biased, if that makes sense. And so,
it does.
Yeah, so we have a little bit more freedoms than they have in a way.
Yeah, you never know if they look at something like what we're doing and it's like, those guys are just a joke. What are they doing here?
That was one of my
work. This is my living, and what are you doing here?
Yeah, and in fact, going into it even before, that was my number one hesitation. Was I did not want to like disrespect their work, and feel like, hey, just because we got a media credential, that all of a sudden, obviously I'm not a journalist, and you and I are not journalists, and we hold very little journalistic responsibility with this podcast. So that's just why I was just really thankful that we were afforded the opportunity to participate and keep up the good work for those who are listening. Really,
I think it's a little bit progressive by the Big Sky Conference actually to allow some podcast only or some media only. I know like Tubbs of the Club has a website and they do a little bit of content, but I understand most of they're just a podcast, just like we are. So it's like it's progressive to kind of let some podcasts, and I think it's kind of smart because podcasts are like on the rise. Like this is the way people consume like media now. So I think it's smart of them and progressive of them. I don't want to like just say that just because they let us in, but it's like it's forward thinking, I think, on the new commissioner's part. I don't know if you're a big fan of that, but
I think that's a really good point, Thorny. And I think that's probably why we were given this opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know if we would have under the old Andrea Williams, is that who the old commissioner was? I can't even remember, but
sounds right.
I don't know if we would have been invited under the old regime, but yeah, in fact, the new commissioner seems to be on board with all of the Big Sky podcasters. We'll get to that a little bit later on here. So, but you did have actually, I want to ask you, were you starstruck by anybody in there? Like you go in there and this holy crap, there's Dan Hawkins.
Yeah, I was right when I walked in. I've never seen Jeff choke. Face. Well, I guess I saw him in the lounge that night before, but I've never been in the same room as Bobby Jahque, or Dan Hawkins. I mean, it's almost like when we've been fans of the Big Sky for so long, and you've been seeing these faces for so long, and then all of a sudden all of them are right there, every single one of them, and you're like, damn. It's just a little bit surreal, and you're walking down the hall and Jay Hill nods at you. Hey, how's it going? You're like, that was Jay Hill, it was pretty cool. Once I got over that, I felt a lot more comfortable. And next year, Thorny, wherever this goes, if it goes to Salt Lake or if it's back here in Spokane, you and I are going to tag team this. So we'll get you out here.
Yeah,
sure.
I'd like to come out next year because I'd do the same thing as you. I'd be nervous and I'd just start with maybe the players like you did. And why don't we, do you want to introduce the interview that you were able to do with Kevin Kassis and Jahque Alleyne?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good segue for that. So I was able to sit down with the boys. I think it was one of their first interviewees. And as I would typically, I forgot to push record on my phone that I was using. And so I missed about 2 questions and one notable question that you're not going to hear. I asked Kevin Kassis, I was like, so what's better, throwing a touchdown or catching a touchdown? And without hesitation, he said throwing a touchdown. So that was not in the interview the sound that you will hear, but I thought that was pretty cool. So I guess we're just going to play that audio now, and I hope you guys enjoy. There we go. We'll get going. I'll write it down. Okay. Is there a player you guys go against that you can't stand?
On the other teams, you're saying?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say so. There's not really anyone I can identify.
Come on, man. I don't really believe that all that much. No. We're a fan-based podcast, too, so we can have our opinions if you don't have to. No?
I just feel like teams are always changing and whatnot. It's kind of guys move on and stuff like that, so it's kind of...
I talk trash to everybody, so I really don't know.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have any friends coming over, or do you have any friends on the Norfolk team that's coming over?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah?
Good amount.
Nice.
So,
that's going to be exciting for you.
Yeah, definitely fun.
So when I was a little boy, I have some family in Woodstock, Virginia. We used to go out there. Do you know where that's at?
Yeah.
Shenandoah Valley?
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah, it's nice over there.
Yeah. I had just a couple more. Let's see. Let me see. I asked all that. Oh, yeah. I was going to ask. Do you think you're going to get 1,000 yards this year?
Yeah, if we get someone to throw me the ball, I'm saying. No, we'll see. Whatever happens.
If you're not going to say it, I'm going to say it. If we get somebody throwing the ball.
I mean, that's the big question in Montana State right now, right? Is the quarterback.
No.
You guys feel all right with that?
We do, yeah. I think we feel good with that. And we got 2 guys who were going to battle out for it and whatnot. And the thing with them is they're both so similar, like big 6'5" guys. One's not like more of a better runner than the other. They're both pretty similar. So we'll see. But we throw Troy back there too and get some. I mean, you can never go wrong doing that. So.
Yeah. I did have one for you, Kevin. Is this is year 4 for you, man.
Yeah.
Think back to all the games you played as a Bobcat. What was your favorite game?
The Cat Grizz games are. Those are in a different category because those are just so unique. Probably my favorite game was when I threw the touchdown pass against Davis.
Yeah.
I'm a Northern California guy, so that was kind of the school going to high school that I wanted to go to. I had a family that went there and was close to home. So I wouldn't say, that was special to me to be able to do something like that against them because I'm not sure they really wanted me that much. But, and I'm kind of glad they didn't because coming up to Bozeman, I wouldn't change it for the world. And it's been so fun and such a different I guess culture up here and whatnot. And, it's been a special time. And, yeah, so I'd probably say that UC Davis game my freshman year was one that I'll never forget.
What are your plans after you graduate? I mean, all this can be done in like 9 months.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm a finance major as of right now. And, I think I might go home for a little bit and, try that out. And eventually I'd like to maybe make my way back up to Bozeman and whatnot. And it's funny, like I wouldn't have said that like 4 years ago. Like I would have said I would have got my 4 years there and got out. But, eventually, even if I can stay there right out of college, I'd love to. And, or make my way back up at some point.
Are you going back to Virginia?
After school?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. I love Bozeman, but, I'm a Southern kid, so I'll probably be somewhere in Virginia, Texas, Georgia, Florida, maybe South Carolina, maybe North Carolina. So somewhere down there.
I hope so. You named all the states down there. Hopefully one of those.
So somewhere down in the South.
What do you miss most about it?
Being in the South?
Yeah.
It's warm majority of the time.
Yeah.
Not cold 8 months out of the year.
It was a rough year, man.
Doesn't snow in May, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Hey, any kind of expectations you guys have for the year? Not to get into too much football because.
No, totally. Yeah. We expect to get back in that playoff.
Yeah.
In that playoff run.
Right.
Hopefully we can, win some games so we can get a first round bye. That'd be so huge.
Yeah.
And make teams come to Bozeman and play us because we saw that was such an advantage for North Dakota State and whatnot. And just to that bye because it's like hectic during the school year, finals and whatnot, and just being time to recover your body after a 10, 11 games. So.
Yeah, 12-game season. What do you think
That's
about
right.
that?
Yeah.
It's a long one.
And it's funny talking to some of the other schools. It seems like that's kind of like the new thing now to have 12 games. I don't even know if we really have a bye. I don't think we have a bye.
Yeah, you guys do have a bye.
We do?
Yeah,
It's somewhere in
I looked at
October,
your
right?
schedule today. It's
October.
right between the third week of October.
Oh, okay.
I see, I knew
So you
it.
play Sac State at home, and then you guys have a week off, and then you go over to North Dakota.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, that'll be nice. I think that's a good time to have a bye. And I think 12 games. I think that's what everyone's doing now. 12 games. So it's weird.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of teams are doing the 12-game thing on this level a lot now. What I've been noticing. So
I think it's because it's got to do with, I guess, getting into the playoffs and whatnot, and more wins you got. I guess that's going to help. And I know some teams schedule like an NAIA school or a Division II, and those don't count. So it's like, I guess they felt they got to schedule another game to make up for that, which maybe they should have just scheduled like a team that actually counts to begin with. But
FBS school.
Kudos to our AD and athletic.
Do you like Leon?
I do, yeah. Really good guy.
Yeah.
Super good guy, and they're doing a lot of stuff for us, and I think the guys in the future are going to appreciate it as well.
Do you think we're going to get those 84 throwbacks?
We better.
They'll get them in 20 years when the facilities are all done. And
I'm trying to get them this season because I want to wear them. So if anybody, knows some things and trying to donate a couple dollars, go on my way.
Well, I think we played with 1 year, and we played a game. It might not be it. We played a game called
2014.
Chadron State. Ever heard of Chadron State?
Yeah.
You guys know who Danny Woodhead is?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He tore him up, didn't he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we just came off. We beat Boulder. We beat
Colorado. That's
Colorado
right.
and Boulder. We come back. We play Chadron State the next game, and we lose to Chadron State.
Yeah.
With Mike Kramer, that was kind of like what we did back in the day.
That's right. Danny, I heard he tore us up.
All right. I think that's all I got, guys.
Sweet.
I just want to say good luck to you. And thanks for coming out. I really appreciate your story. I listened to it last year. A lot of respect for you.
Thank you.
Man, I just think you guys are just a good representative. Right on, man. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was our audio from Jahque, Alleyne, and Kevin Kassis. And, one of the things that struck me when I was sitting down with those guys was just how easy it was to talk to them. They just seem like good dudes. Just like good representatives of Montana State. So I really appreciated the time I got to spend with them and wish them nothing but the best this year for sure.
Well, man, I thought you did a great job, especially considering, like you said, we've never been we're not media. We've never been media. I'm pretty sure you're in the same boat as me. You've never interviewed someone, especially someone like who's kind of a celebrity, if you will, as Bobcat athletes are around these parts. So I thought you did a great job. I thought you put Kevin Kassis on the hot seat pretty good there by asking just straight up like, who don't you like? That's like, you can't expect a player to like answer that one honestly. Like, they can't say that. That's on record.
I tried.
I love Jahque. He just gave it like, I hate everybody, basically. I trash everybody.
Yeah, that guy's cool, man. You know what's interesting about those players? One of the things that I noticed that just really stuck out is those guys are physical specimens. Every single one of those players during those interviews, man, you just watch them walk by, and people don't look like football players normally do. Like Division I athletes who are football players they stand out because they're just physically imposing people. Dante Olson from the Grizz, one of the most frightening people I've ever seen. So, and he was smiling. He just looked like that guy would crush me in 2 seconds if I said something wrong. If I looked wrong at him, he would just tackle me and just punish me. So, I mean, they just look different. So, good job, I guess. I don't know what else to say about that, but they just look different.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't get an opportunity to really see the guys too up close. So it's an interesting observation. Another thing I thought was interesting is you never know, a guy from California, from Virginia, come up here. Do they fall in love with Bozeman, or do they just want to get the hell out as soon as possible? And we found one of both.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, like, during my time there, we had some media polls come out and some coaches polls come out. I think we should talk about those real quick.
Okay. Do you want to read the polls, or do you want me to? Let's.
I can read them. I got them right here. Okay. There's not much difference between the two. The coaches poll had, I'm just going to rank them 1st to 13th. Eastern Washington, UC Davis is number 2. 3rd was Weber. 4th was U of M. And 5th was MSU. 6th, they had NAU. 7th, ISU. 8th, Idaho. 9th, Cal Poly. 10th, Portland State. 11th, Sac State. 12th, Southern Utah. And 13th, Northern Colorado. With the media poll, the same with the top 5. Only thing different there, they had MSU flip-flopped with U of M at 4 and 5, respectively. From there, Idaho State came in at 7, flip-flopped with Idaho, but the rest was exactly the same. So I guess the question is, to you, Thorny, which one do you think got it right? And basically, we really want to know, where is MSU correctly placed in your opinion?
I mean, we have to be the media poll. The 4th, there's no way that, I don't see how anybody could vote the Grizz ahead of us at this point, and I don't see how most people could vote us ahead of Weber. So I think we're right about where we should be at 4th. I don't think that's necessarily where we'll finish, but if you're looking at it right now, like, yeah, I think 4th is right. And I think the only reason that the Grizz are higher than us in the coaches poll, according to Coulter, is because Jeff Choate voted for the Grizz number 1.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's what he said. He's pretty sure that Jeff Choate was the one who cast that lone first place vote for the Grizz, which gave them 4 points more than us. So I think he pretty much voted us out of 4th place. It's kind of.
Was that just like a kind gesture by him, or what?
I don't know, like the point system, like what a first place vote was worth. I don't really understand the points, but 4-point differential. If Jeff Choate votes someone else for first, I can't imagine that the Grizz are ahead of us. So yeah, I'm pretty. Coulter's pretty positive that Jeff Choate's the one who cast that vote.
Oh, interesting. All right,
got to be throwing shade. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be like that could be just like giving him the finger without giving him the finger. I don't know. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that. That's really interesting. I'm with you, man. The media poll seems about right. If nothing else, like, MSU has 8 offensive players returning, or starters, 9 defensive starters returning. U of M certainly doesn't have that much. I know they have guys who have playing experience returning, but simply that. If they're putting U of M over us because of Dalton Sneed, well, Dalton Sneed's a good quarterback, no doubt. But I just don't see how U of M eclipses MSU in this preseason polls. But their preseason polls, they mean absolutely nothing. And they're just fodder for really you and me. So
yeah,
there you go.
And really the top 5, if you flip-flop the Grizz or the Cats, the top 5 are basically, this year just seems like that top 5 is the only teams that really have any sort of chance. The rest of everybody else is like, I don't really see anyone else being like a legitimate contender. There's always surprises and you don't know anything at this point. Like these are preseason, but on paper, it's like who could possibly, it's like top 5 and everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, those top 5 could conceivably get into the playoffs.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. These polls really were evenly stratified in my mind.
Agreed.
That top 5, I would say 6 through 9. And then you had the bottom 4, which were pretty clear. And, there's that top 5 is where it's going to be. So Eastern Washington, UC Davis, Weaver, Montana State, and University of Montana. Those are your flagship teams. And for them to be up on the top, regardless, is just good for our conference. So that's good.
Agreed. Good visibility. And speaking of visibility, let's move on to the all-conference teams. Who do we got?
On offense, we have offensive tackle, senior Mitch Brott. That's easy one right there.
Yep.
Looking down the line, we have Troy Anderson at fullback, of course.
Sorry, I laugh I've heard it like 100 times now. I just laugh every time.
Yeah, you're right. Like, just having Troy Anderson put his fingers down in the dirt, so to say, is just is a good image of like, okay, Troy, we're gonna ask you to do this now. Pretty soon, he's gonna be holding kicks, doing the kicks at the same time, and anything else we really want him. We'll put him in on the offensive line too, and we'll put him first team. Defense, we had Bryce Stirk at outside linebacker, Greg Filer Sr. at cornerback, and then Braden Conkle at safety.
So there are a couple surprises there for me. Bryce Stirk at outside linebacker, I don't quite understand, and also Greg Filer, pleasant surprise that he's first team here.
Yeah, I mean he quietly had a really good year last year, right?
Did. Yeah, he had a really good second half of the year, especially when Tyrell Thomas got hurt for a little bit and Jalen Cole went out, and Filer just kind of stepped up and became kind of one of the best shutdown corners in the league, one of the best press, like just physical at the point of attack right off the line of scrimmage guys in the league. So I was pleasantly surprised to see him get some recognition for that.
Well, I felt like he was always overshadowed by Jahque, because Jahque led the Big Sky Conference with 5 interceptions and then got snubbed on the honorable mention. And he was pretty pissed about that. I asked him about that. He was like, he just gave me a head nod. I was like, yeah, I'd be pissed too if I was if I was snubbed. But because of that, we didn't talk a lot about Greg Filer Munchie last year. I mean, he was definitely splashed. The game I remember him being at his best, one of his best was Weber.
Yep.
But then he
also
just
had a pick in Eastern the game too.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just there. So when that came out and I saw his name, I was tip of cap, sure, but surprised to see it. But I'm not surprised now going back thinking about his performance. So yeah, that's all I got on preseason all conference.
Well, Jahque Allen got snubbed again, in my opinion here.
Let's see here. Well, I don't know too much about Aguiar. I don't know how you say his name, from Idaho State, but man, I think Jahque's can play with a chip on his shoulder, no doubt, no matter what. So,
I mean, in these kinds of situations, I kind of I get the both sides of the argument. Like, he's a really, really good player, but Idaho State's defense is really, really bad. So do you want like a stud player on a terrible defense, or do you want a stud player on a good defense? I think you got to lean towards the guy who's on a good team, don't you?
Absolutely.
If all else things are equal, one guy's on one of the worst defenses in the league. One guy is on one of the best defenses in the league. You gotta pick that guy.
Absolutely. So I don't know, just snubbed again. So I think he's poised to have a big year. So Montana State in general, like just the momentum they have right now, it's a good time to be a Cat. So
it is.
Well, I don't think we have too much more, right, Thorny? That was about it. That was about it.
Yep, I think we should get to wrapping this up. Kind of get ourselves out of here. I do want to mention that we partnered with some other podcasters, including the aforementioned ones from the Big Sky Kickoff, to form the Big Sky Podcast Network, which you can find at Twitter at Big Sky Podcasts. And it's going to be comprised of the Montana Mint guys, the Grizz Pod from them, the Idaho Tubs at the Club, NAU podcast, the newly formed Eastern Washington podcast, which I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Nobody cares.
And then us, of course. So it's just a way to kind of promote the brand being the Big Sky Football, kind of promote this new kind of form of media that we were so graciously approved to be at the kickoff meeting in Spokane because of that. And I think it's going to be really good for us and for the other podcasters. And it's going to be a really fun season. We're going to be doing some collaborative content. So stay tuned for some new podcasts with multiple people from various fan bases getting together and talking about Big Sky football.
And for the R&R Cat Cast, we're going to make a push this year to have more guests on our show. And maybe just some changes coming around the corner. So hold tight for those.
Sounds good. And as always, give us a follow on Twitter ourselves, R&R Cat Cast. And if you feel like it, if we aren't the worst thing you've ever listened to, you can go ahead and give us a review on iTunes. That would help us out.
Yeah. Thank you for those who already have.
Much appreciated. Thanks for listening. And go Cats.
Go Cats.